I'm gonna double check that this is working first. And once I have that confirmation, look at that. Alright, we're good. What's up, guys? I know it's been a long time, and I feel like you should know why. While I was doing YouTube before, I was in the middle of a personal crisis on some level. Things are not going well for me, but I kept soldiering forward, kept pretending I was okay, kept pretending that I wasn't an emotional train wreck. But the truth of the matter was, and I had to admit this to my friends and family eventually, is that I was anything but fine. And I'm doing this as a live stream because maybe some of you are awake and you'll tune in. But more than that, I'm doing this as a live stream because I don't plan on editing it. It shouldn't be edited. It doesn't need to be edited. And this way, I can't second guess myself. I can't take it back. It's going up on YouTube. I could delete the movie later, but until it's done encoding, it's out there. You guys can watch it. And this makes it official, makes it permanent. I mentioned, I believe, in one of my videos, the breakup I had gone through. It was a relationship that had lasted over 5 years, and it had become one of the most important things in my life. Literally a part of me, something that defined me on some level. And its loss, I tried to be okay with it. I tried to rationalize it. And there was some part of me, no matter how much I denied it, that believed maybe that things could go back to the way they were. And I think that was part of the reason why I was okay. But then I finally, over a year later, it was explained in no uncertain terms to me that was not the case. And I knew that deep down. I knew that, and this was explained to me more recently than my hiatus, unannounced, obviously. But before that, between the emotional conflict I had going in me and a lack of motivation, I mean, let's not beat around the bush about it. I was depressed. And because of that, I stopped creating videos. I lost interest in gaming for a good portion of time. I still don't have the same drive for gaming that I had previously. And it's just, it doesn't hold as much fun for me. Now, that's not to say that I won't do some gaming and whatnot. I will, and I think that that's an amiable goal to work towards at this point, to try and get back my life the way I had it. But before I could do any of that, I had to learn to live with what is and not what I wanted it to be. I had a lot of things I needed to work through emotionally and mentally, just trying to get my head in the right space. And it got to the point where I had to go and seek outside help. I thought I could deal with this all on my own, and I couldn't. I just... My method of dealing with it was to shove it down, to tell myself, just deal with it later. You don't have to worry about it now. It's not that big a deal. It's not important. But the fact of the matter was, it was a huge deal. It was... For me, it was world changing in the sense that it changed my world drastically. It's affected everything. My day-to-day life, whether or not I spend time with friends, how much time I spend with them when I am around, even who I talk to. It's because the person I was with was so ingrained in my friend group. We were all great friends together. Our split, the division between the two of us, has generated a rift in no small part due to my actions since the breakup. I haven't really. It's been hard to understand how to talk to them. My mind knows that between the rest of my friends and myself, nothing has really changed. But I always find myself thinking, but they have to interact with the person I was with, and I won't name them by name. That's not fair, especially with how much time has passed. I'm not calling them out, and if they see this, I want them to know that I'm not blaming them. I'm blaming me for not dealing with this before it became such a problem that it caused me to shut down. But you guys need to know that. You need to know why I was just gone. And I mean, my hiatuses were sporadic. I never announced them. I would disappear. And some of the times it was because I just didn't feel like creating. Another few times it was because I couldn't think of any games that I wanted to play. I mean, there are several series I had going on that have just stopped, including the Halo Marathon, which we tried desperately. Now, we tried to get that stuff to work, but ultimately it came down to, is this what I wanted to do? And you guys have heard that from me before, and those were questions that I was asking myself, but I wasn't taking them seriously because I hadn't dealt with what had caused the issue in the first place. And one of my friends asked me, a couple of my coworkers, they asked me, what happened to your YouTube channel, man? And I didn't have a good answer because there was no really good reason for me stopping, other than when my depression took hold, it just took the energy right out of me. And more than that, it it took the fun out of everything I was doing. I knew I couldn't create good content if I wasn't enjoying the games I was playing. How can I expect my viewers to enjoy watching me play a game if I'm clearly not having fun? I mean, if I was frustrated, if I was angry, if it was a rage game, everybody enjoys that, you know? Enjoys watching somebody else rage out of the game. It's funny, it's entertainment, but it wasn't that kind of thing. It wasn't that I was frustrated with gaming. It was apathy. It was genuine indifference to what I was playing. It didn't mean anything to me anymore. It didn't make me happy. It did nothing. And the last stream that I did, well, I've done one since, but the last one that ended up here on YouTube was Killing Floor, and that was kind of a beginning of the end. At that point, I was so angry because that video didn't turn out at all the way it should have. Stream settings were set properly, but the game settings were all screwed up, so the stream didn't go the way I wanted it to, and I was so angry I didn't even want to touch YouTube anymore. I yelled at the wall about it for 15 minutes to myself, and that sounds weird, but I had to vent somehow, and I couldn't very well yell at that cat you see in the background. That's not fair to him. He wouldn't know what's going on. And I vented to a couple of friends too. You know, I talked to them, and they could tell it set me off. It triggered me. But again, That's just a minor hiccup. Yeah, okay, the video's ruined. Big deal. You make more. And of course, I didn't have a source video, so I couldn't just resize it and call it a day. And even if I had, it would have just looked bad. But I think I was looking for an excuse, any excuse to just get angry at YouTube and to get angry at my life situation. I was looking for a reason to explode. And that was the other reason I left, is I thought, with me in the headspace I'm in, I can't do YouTube. Because little things just would cause me to blow up. I don't know how my coworkers worked with me. I mean, they knew I was going through a tough time, but when it's 6, 8, 10 months after the fact, people, I mean, you can only cut people so much slack. You know, there should be a limit. And I mean, obviously, emotionally, we all know that there's no limit on how long somebody can hurt after something like this happens. But people can only forgive you for your outbursts, can only cut you so much slack before they finally say, when does it end? When can I finally start sticking up for myself again and saying, hey, you can't abuse me like this just because you're broken? And after all, once I started thinking about all that, it was when I started to realize, like, you need help. You need to take a step back. Get an opinion from somebody and have them help you figure out what to do to get your life back on track, to get everything figured out. And I did. I had to finally open up to someone. And it didn't matter if it was a stranger that I was paying or a friend. Just talking about it was all I needed. And the same can be said for any of you who might be in the same situation, where you've lost someone, or you're going through an awful breakup like I was going through, or whatever trauma it might be. If you don't talk to somebody about it, if you just bottle it up, eventually you'll get to the point I did, where I was ready to explode for any and every reason. I know my closest friends, I pushed them away because I knew what I was in for. I knew I wasn't myself. And I didn't want to abuse them too. But the problem is now, again, I return to the how do I talk to these people now? And it's not just because I'm friends with I'm friends with them and they're friends with the person I broke up with. It's not that. They can be friends with her, and that's fine. I'm more than okay with that. And if we're all in the same room together, I can deal with that. But there's more to it than that. I got used to the solitude. I got used to being alone, and I felt alone. I did. I knew my friends were there, but I was lost, and I needed to find my way back on my own, or to at least try. I had to try. Now, I have been toying with the idea of coming back to YouTube for a while, but I always kept telling myself, you gotta make sure you're ready. You gotta make sure that this is not just what you want, but what's best for you. And I kept thinking to myself, am I in the right headspace? Am I in the right headspace? And finally, tonight, I said, no more excuses. If this is something I want to do, I basically put my life on hold since the beginning of the year, trying to sort through my own emotions. And there had to be a limit on how long I let myself wallow. Because when you're miserable and you get used to the feeling of being miserable, you stop. It's not misery anymore. It just feels like normal every day. And you have to do something, anything, to break that monotony. And I'm rambling, I know I am. But this is a video that I'm doing for myself as much as I'm doing it for you guys. And I mean, if you guys have problems like this, talk to someone else, talk to me. I wish I could say that I was 100%, that I was completely over it and whatnot, but I can't say that with any certainty. But what I am certain of is that I'm sick of being down and sad and irritable. I'm sick of feeling sorry for myself. If any of you have ever heard the adage, it's like riding a bike. You never really forget. This is my bike, doing videos and whatnot. You don't really forget how to do them, but if you haven't ridden a bike or made a YouTube video in how long, the first one can be really scary. And I kept finding excuses not to do it. And finally I said, no, you know what? We're going to do this. And I hit the start streaming button on OBS. And I started talking for about a minute and a half before I realized I'd set it up to stream to Twitch and not to YouTube. And I was furious. And I stopped the recording and got it changed over. And I started again because I had to. I wasn't going to let that be another one of those, well, we'll just try it some other time moments. So I'm back. But I needed you guys. I needed to say it out loud for myself. But it's also good that you guys now get to hear why I was gone. And I'm sorry. I really am. I want to be there for you guys. I want to make videos for you guys, and I want to do them well. But I just didn't know how to do it when I was hurting so badly. I didn't want to. And then that was the thing is YouTube is all about having passion, about having drive, about having fire. And I had none of those things. I was completely put out. And without the drive, without any of that other stuff, I couldn't do this right. And the community has been great. There have been a couple of people who have asked where I've been, whatnot, through email, and wondering if I'm okay. And they've heard the story, but this is for the world at large. They needed to know, or you guys needed to know, and I needed to say what everybody's been wondering. What happened to Plasma Storm? Now you have it. A rough patch, yeah. And did I maybe overreact? Was I being overly dramatic about it? To me, no. To me, because that was 5 years of my life that evaporated. But to the other people involved, and maybe to my friends and whatnot, this has been something long overdue. I've never been one to express my feelings to other people. I've just never really been good at that, never been comfortable. It always made me feel weird, it always made me feel whiny. And I complain enough as it is without telling everybody how I feel. But I had to remind myself too, how much I've seen the YouTube community band together and support people who are going through rough times. I mean, I've seen other YouTubers that have lost people in their lives, and the community comes together in this amazing, profound way and supports them in ways I never would have thought was even possible. And I lost sight of that too. I didn't have faith that people would care, that people would understand. But it was just recently I saw a couple of videos, and again, I won't name names because it's not my place. But I saw videos like that where someone had lost something, somebody very important to them, and it devastated them. And most of the time, you would think people would, you always see the darker side of people on the internet. You see the trolls, you see the bad people, and you immediately think, oh, this is going to come back and bite them in the ass. You're going to get a whole bunch of trolls that are up here. Why the hell aren't you making videos? Why the hell aren't you doing this? Why the hell aren't you doing that? And I caught myself thinking that that's exactly what was going to happen. And then I watched, and before my very eyes, I saw the exact opposite happen. And I realized, I've had it all wrong. I've let this depression, this bad headspace twist everything. And that wasn't fair. I let it twist my worldview. I became a cynical person. And that's what depression does to people. It changes you on a fundamental level. You go from being a glass half full person to a glass half empty and getting emptier kind of person. And it does, it drains you of everything. And so your glass is no longer even half empty. It's gone, it's empty. You will feel like you have nothing left to give. It breaks you down. But learning to put yourself back together, that's part of growing up, that's part of life. I'm 26 years old, and this is the first really major thing I've ever had. When I tell you guys that this breakup was bad for me, this was my first real dating relationship that I'm talking about. From the time I was about 20 years old to about a year ago, I had that person in my life. And we made mistakes. We communicated poorly. We did all sorts of things. We made every bad relationship choice you could probably make short of cheating. But bad communication, canceling on one another, all that other seemingly minor stuff. And some major ones too. I won't go into details again. But while we may not have done some of the really, really bad things, because it was my first relationship and it was my inexperience on some level working against me, I beat myself up over every little mistake when I started looking back on it. I am a mature 26-year-old individual. Yes, I still play video games. Yes, I have a quirky, funny side, and I have a tendency to make bad jokes. But I'm relatively mature. But emotionally, that particular part of me was very immature. Because I'd never really dated up until that point. And then to have your first relationship last as long as mine did. Talk about expectations. When we hit that kind of the year mark, and then the 2-year mark, and everything up into the 5-year mark, yeah, I knew we had some problems, but in my mind, we had gotten through so much. We had taken breaks, we had broken up and then got back together. But I almost, it got to the point where I was almost fooling myself into telling me, my brain was essentially telling me it'll never end. And then when it was disillusioned, it could not accept what was right in front of it. And that's something that you don't just work through. And I mean, that would have been one thing if it had been high school and you're surrounded by people, you get to be moody and whatnot, but your friends are literally right there. You don't have any choice. You have to go to school. You have to see these people, and eventually you will talk to them. Outside of high school, outside of college, when all you have is a job, when you go to the job, you're supposed to leave your personal baggage at the door as much as you can. Which means you really don't talk about this kind of stuff at work, or if you do, you do because you have no one else to turn to. But again, you can't talk about it all day. You can't talk about it all the time. And these are people you work with. They're not like your best friends. So you can't expect them to care about your emotions the way that your best friend from high school cared, or your significant other cared, or what have you. And so I would talk to people about it a little bit, scratch the surface, but never really get into it about my feelings. And that was, I told myself I'm talking about it, I'm dealing with it, but that was not the case. Anyway, I'm talking in circles at this point, but maybe if this autofocus, there we go, won't work. The point I'm trying to drive home here is I want you guys to fully understand, and I think I've probably made that point by now, but I want you guys to fully understand what I went through. I don't want you guys, I want you to know as many of the details as I can give you without breaching trust, without pointing fingers at anybody. Like I said, we made some bad choices. There was no cheating. There were secrets that were kept from other people, feelings that were not talked about, people wondering, one of us was wondering why the other hadn't done something, stuff like that, but we communicated so poorly at the end that the other person didn't know what was really going on in our heads. And so things just kind of fell apart. And now that I can see that, and I can take this experience and I can add it to my list of things that I've been through, I look back and I can say, yes, that relationship was not only flawed, but there were some things that were very fundamentally wrong with it. But I was so attached to it that I could not let it go. Up until now. And once I was finally ready to let go, and I had started seeing somebody, I was told by that person that I needed to go to the person I'd been with, and I needed to lay my feelings bare, because I wanted to have a friendship with this person. We had been best friends for a long time, or well, I shouldn't say best friends, but we had been friends for a long time before we began dating. And a lot of people say, and I find this to be relatively true, when you date somebody, you break the friendship and it becomes something more, but if you lose that something more, things probably won't go back to the way they were. They probably can't. And I think that for us that was very true, but we tried it. And when I shared my feelings on the subject, and again, this was almost a year later, they couldn't understand how I was still so broken up about it. And the reason I was so broken up about it is because for the majority of that time, I had been in denial. So I was allowing myself to experience those things, those feelings. I was really feeling those feelings for the first time since it had all happened. It's almost like being in shock. You get shot or you get stabbed and whatever. A lot of people say that they don't initially feel the pain. If you shot in the shoulder, shot in the stomach, whatever. During a certain, extenuatingly stressful situation, some people won't even notice those things until well after events have transpired, and then suddenly they realize that they're in immense amounts of pain. This was no different. It was emotional shock. And then all at once, while we were talking, I realized how much this was like crushing me. How much it had really been crushing me. I mean, obviously, I had realized to a certain extent enough that I had gone to get, professional help, but it was through the course of that conversation that I really experienced it. And they felt I was being overtly dramatic. And maybe I was. I certainly could have presented it in a less wordy, less emotionally saturated manner. But that's not who I am. I might not tell people about my emotions and whatnot, but you will know how I feel through the way that I speak. Not because I'm, intentionally expressing and like gushing my feelings out or anything like that, but just the way I word things. How wordy I choose to get. If I get seriously eloquent, even if my voice is steady and there's not a whole lot of emotion in it, it's because I'm feeling, and I'm trying to describe exactly how I am feeling at that point to a person. And it gets wordy, and it gets ugly, and it gets messy, and it gets dramatic. But eventually I had to say to myself, you know what? She's right. It's time that you move forward, and that was the first step, really. When I was talking to the therapist, he said, until you actually confront your feelings full force, this isn't going to do you any good. And so I did what I had to. And unfortunately, it meant burning a bridge. Not intentionally, but when you let something get personal and emotional, it can cause wildfire without you even realizing it. And pretty soon, she ended up telling me, I don't think that being friends is a good idea. I don't even think we should talk. And again, this was somebody who was like not only my significant other, but my best friend for 5 years. So that cut me deep, but it also made me realize it was time for me to move forward. Time for me to stop standing by the doorway waiting for things to change and go out there and make them change. And that's what I've been trying to do every day since then. And that's all been leading up to this point, where I'm making a video where I ramble for, 30 minutes I've been rambling at you guys about my feelings. If you've listened to it up to this point, I have nothing but gratitude. You've listened to a YouTuber whose channel is basically died, wax eloquent about his feelings for half an hour. And that means more to me than you could know. That you were willing to put up with my chaotic whatever for a half hour. But now that you guys know what I went through, how I went through it, and what the experience did to me and what it taught me. And I will be making more videos like this, not half-hour long ones, but videos talking about things I've learned, things I've experienced. I want to do vlogs in addition to my gaming stuff. But I will be coming back to YouTube. I'm not going to give you guys a set schedule because we all know I can't keep to one of those worth a damn. My work schedule has been stabilizing such that I've been getting primarily Tuesdays and Wednesdays off, occasionally a Thursday too. And if that continues to be true, and hold true for an extended period of time, I will release a set schedule. But until then, videos are going to be sporadic, and that's all I can offer you. I'm going to try and do one over the next couple of days, because I've got Tuesday. Well, tomorrow I do work, but I don't work until 2. I think I'm going to go work for my parents tomorrow before I go work at the auto wash. But if I don't, and I'm still kind of trying to decide that, if I don't, then I will spend my morning putting a video together for you guys. And then Wednesday I have off. No questions asked. I may go, again, work my other job. I can kind of make my own hours there. It's nice. But even if I do that, it would be only until like 3 p.m. And then I'd have from 3 p.m. to whenever to make a video. And then Thursday I also have off from my primary job this week. So I've got 3 days, one of which obviously my time is somewhat accounted for, but I want to at least get 2 videos out over the course of the next 3 days. Now, both of those might get done one day. One of them might done one day, and one might get done the other. I'm not going to guarantee anything, but I'm going to start slow, get back into the groove of making videos, and then learning how to talk to you guys without taking a half hour to explain something that should take 10 minutes. And when I get there, I hope all of you will be right there with me, ready to do this again. And I'll be talking to some of my friends, trying to get them together for live streams. I still want to do those on the weekends, although I don't have weekends off, so they won't start until late. We could maybe do them Sunday. I'll have to kind of talk to them and see what their schedules look like too. And again, I don't want to make any promises just yet, but I do feel that I'm ready to be back. And I feel like it's been a long time coming and it's a little overdue, but better late than never. I hope you guys are having a wonderful night. I know it's late. I'm going to let you go to bed. And I will see you guys next time. This is Plasma Storm saying thank you for your patience and for your time. I'll see you soon.